Santa Claus has been around the DC universe for nearly as long as both Superman and Batman, but his depictions have been all over the place and very contradictory. He's usually been presented as the classic plump and jolly guy who will brave the horrors of apocalypse just to give Darkseid a lump of coal. But sometimes he's given a parallel to Superman's origin, where he's the last of an alien race that was raised by humans and decided to do good around the world, complete with an iconic costume and a base in the Arctic. Or, you know, there's the time that Constantine found his remains, ground them into a powder, and then snorted it for a power boost. Because comics. Well, in 2023, DC decided to finally cement Old St. Nick into proper canon by giving him a team-up comic. This is Batman Santa Claus Silent Night. Hello and welcome to Comic Drake, where I talk about comic books. My name is Drake. Let's talk about it. Now, Grandma might have gotten run over by a reindeer in that famous Christmas song, but if you're ever injured in a similar accident and you don't know where to start, then Morgan & Morgan makes it so easy. And the best part is that the fee is absolutely free unless you win. Morgan & Morgan doesn't settle for lowball offers either, and over the past few months, people that were involved in life-altering car crashes have received millions in compensation. I mean, there's a reason why they're the largest injury law firm in America, and they're ready to take on insurance companies no matter the size. So if you're ever injured in an accident, then you can always check out Morgan & Morgan. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/Drake. Once again, that is forthepeople.com/Drake. Once again, big thank you to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring the video, but now let's get back to it. Written by Jeff Parker and illustrated by Michele Bandini, Batman Santa Claus Silent Night was originally going to be called Christmas Night, which is just an objectively worse title. I mean, come on, the K is silent and everything. It's absolutely perfect. It's Christmas time in Gotham City, but unfortunately, there have been vampire attacks all across town, specifically from a vampiric strain of Norse undead. The Bat family has been doing what they could to take down the threat, but luckily they got a little more help when Santa Claus came to town on the back of a massive flying reindeer with glowing eyes. Of course, he and Batman have already met during Bruce's training abroad, and in fact, it's Santa that apparently taught him a few tricks that Bruce still uses to this day, and this right here completely sets the stage for the tone of this book. Yes, it's grounded, but it really doesn't take itself too seriously. And another detail that I love is that every time that Santa meets a superhero, he recites their childhood address and what they asked for Christmas. An especially great detail for diehard comic fans like myself is that unless a childhood address was already established firmly in canon, like Wayne Manor being 1007 Mountain Drive, these addresses are references to when characters made their first appearances. Like 1964, Foxhawk Lane alludes to Zatanna's debut in Hawkman number 4 in 1964, written by Gardner Fox. It's a great detail. With Santa's help, the heroes of Gotham are able to get a handle on their monster situation, and everyone is shocked and amazed by Old St. Nick's sudden appearance. Like, there's this great moment of Nightwing remarking that he thought that Bruce was just making up all of his adventures with Santa to make him seem cool, and cool he most certainly is. Obviously, this incarnation of Father Christmas was inspired by Norse mythology, which makes a lot of sense considering that most of the Christmas traditions and iconography that we all know and love today actually originate from the Germanic pagan holiday of Yule. And sure, a pagan woodsman warrior Santa is not a new or a mind-blowing concept, and there are other comics that have done this exact idea much better, such as the amazing indie comics series Klaus by Grant Morrison and Dan Mora. But Silent Night's incarnation is still a ton of fun with how it presents the DC Santa's origins. Klaus was originally a craftsman in Asgard who participated in the Wild Hunt to kill and capture beasts around Earth, and it's on this journey that he encountered the Krampus, a trickster beast man who loved scaring children. Because he was ultimately harmless, Klaus was going to bring Krampus back to his home in Svartalheim, but the Bifrost was destroyed by an unknown force, which left both of them stranded on Earth. This new dynamic duo made the most of their time by becoming monster hunters, but instead of killing them to craft sick armor, Santa and Krampus just kind of sealed the most dangerous creatures away in order to protect humanity. It's really billed as if like Santa and Krampus are the original superheroes, which is a fun theme that we'll kind of tie into a little bit later. At the same time though, Krampus still got his kicks from scaring children whenever they rolled into town for supplies, and to make up for his partner's shenanigans, Santa made the kids toys as an apology. But instead of forcing Krampus to stop scaring the children, Klaus instead encouraged him to focus just on the bad ones, you know, as a way to force children into getting their act together by threatening to eat them. However, even though the kids did get better over the years, they began to see Krampus as something more like a jester than a genuine threat, and this was clearly starting to get to him. And then one day, Krampus snapped, and he ate some children, which led to an emotionally charged fight where, in a fit of anger and pain, Klaus banished him to a far-off dimension that we later find out is actually the Phantom Zone from the Superman comics. But when the dust settled, Klaus realized that it was just a prank, bro. The kids were fine and they were just hiding around the corner, bribed into silence through treats that the Krampus gave them. Despite searching across the Phantom Zone for years, Santa was unable to find his friend, meaning that Krampus was stranded there and went mad over the centuries. But thankfully, or not, he wasn't alone. There were other inhabitants that were stuck in the Phantom Zone as well, and these guys had lost their physical forms and possessed the Krampus. Fast forward many centuries later to DC's Night Terror event, where the borders of reality got torn as a result of heroes and villains being forced into the nightmare realms because comics. This allowed for Krampus to escape with all the spirits hitching a ride inside of his body like an interdimensional Uber, and they got to work on freeing every single deadly creature that he and Santa had once sealed away, hence the entire plot of this book.
Everybody got that? Good!
Despite this comic literally being called Batman Santa Claus, it quickly becomes a full-ass Justice League book, with everyone coming together to fight off the hordes of monsters. And this includes a fantastic bit where Superman flies in with the most heartbroken face because he's sad that Bruce never mentioned that he knew Santa. It actually reminds me of one of my favorite scenes in the Justice League cartoon.
This little guy was crazy for Christmas. We used to wrap his presents in lead foil so he couldn't peek.
You mean Santa wrapped them?
Oh, of course, dear.
Santa Claus is to Clark Kent what Superman is to the rest of the world, and it is the cutest damn thing to watch the Man of Steel turn into a giddy child whenever he's working right alongside his hero. It's enough to make even the heart of a Grinch like myself grow 3 sizes. But after fighting some harpies and a sea serpent, an elf who basically works as Santa's Alfred teleports the Justice League right to the Krampus. But one of the Phantom Zone spirits managed to possess Superman and use all of his immense strength to free the strongest of all the monsters. Not only that, but since Damien is a total brat, Krampus's old self rose to the top and he kidnaps him during the commotion so that he can punish him. Luckily, the spirit that was in control of Superman was not used to his strong body, which when combined with kryptonite radiation that Blue Beetle's armor was able to generate, meant that the Justice League was able to subdue him and purge its influence. Then, Santa uses his power of listening through trees to locate Damien, and all of the heroes bust into his hideout, open a portal to the Phantom Zone, and essentially perform an exorcism on the Krampus, reverting him back to his normal mischievous, albeit harmless self. To cap it all off, even though Santa is not needed for Christmas to happen these days, he still likes to deliver a few gifts in person for the spirit of it all, and he invited Damien to come along for the sleigh ride. As for the rest of the Justice League, Claus offered his workshop where they could all eat and drink in a place where no time passes so they can finally get a chance to relax for a change. It's the perfect gift for a superhero. And look, as I alluded to earlier, and as you can probably tell by this hat, I'm not a fan of Christmas, but even I can admit that this book rules. Santa Claus wears spiked knuckles and uppercuts a giant for crying out loud. And yes, I could be cynical about how giving basically every detail of Christmas tradition and iconography and origin story is cheesy, but it's charming. I mean, come on, Santa threatens a misbehaving kid with, "I know when you sleep and I know when you wake." And on top of that, this comic is legitimately funny, dropping multiple great lines, like this one about how the Justice League doesn't need to call on Aquaman for every water-related incident. However, the humor is balanced with the action, and it never overstays its welcome. It still tells a compelling story from start to finish. Most importantly though, Jeff Parker really seems to understand who all of these characters are. Of course, Barbara Gordon wanted a complete set of Nancy Drew books as a kid. Of course, a young Clark Kent would not ask for presents for himself, but instead, a new coffee maker for his parents. And all of this hits home extra hard with Bendini's fantastic art and with how expressive he makes the characters. When Zatanna and Superman look at Santa, their admiration for him radiates off of the page, and I'm honestly a little upset that Krampus is a villain here because this design is instantly iconic and would be perfect for an antagonist in an ongoing series. Nothing in this comic feels out of place, and it's one of the most enjoyable books that I've read in a while. And clearly, I am not alone in this sentiment because it got a sequel a year later called Silent Night Returns. Now, this comic is still coming out at the time of this recording, so there's obviously not going to be a lot to cover as a result. But the general plot is that some of the creatures that Krampus freed managed to escape during the commotion of the last book. These monsters, though, were minions of the long-lost bad guy from the Arthurian era called the Silent Knight, and they are trying to resurrect him because his armor was divided into multiple pieces and they need to bring it all together. Look, It's not the most interesting plot, but it is fun. And because there is a literal Silent Night this time around, the title of the book works on 2 levels. Yes, Silent Night Returns is a cute reference to The Dark Knight Returns, complete with variant covers that pay homage to it. But the plot of this comic is literally about the Silent Night returning to cause chaos. Frankly though, I really wish they would just drop the Batman Santa part of the title, because the 2 of them don't really work together this time around. See, the Justice League is all trapped in the Silent Knight's realm, so Santa steps up and he teams up with Damian Wayne to go and free them. It's a really heartwarming bit though, because you see the growth in Damian's character. He used to be an edgy teenager that didn't believe in Santa Claus, and then he participated in the sleigh ride, and now he's working right alongside him. I mean, hell, if anything, you can call the book Santa Claus and Robin, but DC can't have that because you gotta shove Batman to the forefront of everything. So far, the sequel is not nearly as fun as the first, but it's still plenty enjoyable, with the best parts being of how we get to see more of Santa's power and equipment, like traveling through chimney, through fiery explosions, and magic pocket sand that puts people to sleep. Also, Mrs. Claus is here, and she is a hot elven warrior, and I have 0 complaints in that department. Although, I personally wish this comic instead focused on Santa's adventures with a young Bruce Wayne. You know, the ones that were alluded to in the first book. They could even frame it as Bruce telling these stories to Dick when he was a kid, but I guess there's always next year for that. But the downside is that knowing DC, they're likely going to milk this franchise to death. And for what it is, the Silent Night series has been an absolute delight and makes the perfect gift for comic fans of most ages. So if you haven't already, please by all means give it a read. And if you want to give me a Christmas present or even a birthday present, since my birthday is December 27th, I'm always accepting likes and subscribes. And hey, if you're looking for a more holly jolly cheer, then I have an award-winning video where I read every appearance of Santa Claus in Marvel Comics, and it got really complicated. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, happy holidays, and hopefully I'll see you next time.